One dog, Flora, was this cop's best friend. They worked together in the police force until Flora was sadly diagnosed with a deadly disease. The police officer was left with one choice: to say goodbye forever. What this cop said during this dog's last minutes will make you cry. We all have our dreams and ambitions, and Kelvin's own was to become a cop. So, after graduating from the police academy, he applied for jobs within and outside his country and hoped to get a positive response from them. Meanwhile, his girlfriend Claire was one of the main reasons he was happy. You see, Kelvin was quite ambitious, and if things didn't go the way he wanted, it made him very sad. Since this was the case, he often made sure he worked twice as hard just to get anything he wanted. However, to him, Claire was a constant source of joy, and she always did everything to make him happy. He gave her his best as well, which is why when she started acting very strange, he became very apprehensive. Lately, her visits to his house had dropped, and she always sounded very sad. It was likely she needed to get something off her chest but didn't find the strength to. So one evening, Kelvin told her, "You know, you can always tell me anything and I will do everything I can to make you happy. If there's a problem, please tell me about it." But she smiled and said, "I will never hide anything from you. I'm fine, my love." Regardless of this, Kelvin could tell she wasn't saying the truth. Was she worried because he hadn't gotten a job yet? Was she sick? Several reasons crossed his mind, but none came close to the bitter truth. Later that evening when Kelvin got home, he was having breakfast when he decided to check his email. He wasn't expecting much, but what he was about to see soon changed his life greatly. He was scrolling through his email when his eyes caught the word offer. Then he opened the email and it contained a job offer message. He had been offered a job in the police force in Mexico. Kelvin was so excited he quickly reached for his phone to break the news to his girlfriend, but he stopped himself. Instead, he called her and asked her to come over the next day because he had some good news for her. Claire had always wanted to live elsewhere outside of the United States where they both lived, so he was sure she would like the idea. He would ask her to come with him to Mexico so they could start their lives over there. The next evening, Kelvin got ready for his girlfriend's arrival. He cooked her best meal and even played her favorite music. He wanted it to be perfect. Then, a few minutes past 5 p.m., the much-awaited knock came. Kelvin rushed to the door, and when he opened it, of course, his damsel was right there. But something was off about her. Her eyes were red, and she had a big box in her hand. But Kelvin still acted cool and said nothing about it. It was Claire who broke the silence. She told him she had something to tell him too. The good news or the bad news? Which one first? She asked. The good news, Kelvin said happily. Then Claire bent down, opened the box, and a dog about 8 months old popped out. Kelvin's eyes widened in admiration. He thought the dog was the cutest he had ever seen. She started training as a police dog, but her owner dropped her off at the shelter because his wife didn't want dogs. So I got her for you. Her name is Flora. Kelvin then patted the dog. Hello, Flora. Thanks for coming into my life. We will be the best of friends. I promise. Then looking up, he said with utmost excitement, I did it for us, baby. I got into the police force in Mexico. Let's go together. Let's start all life all over there. Then he grabbed her hands passionately, but the emotions he saw in her eyes took him from a 100 to 0, and fear engulfed him immediately. Let's break up. I have been seeing someone else. What we share is not love. I only feel safe with you, but I love him. I am sorry, she said, slipped her hands out of his and walked out of the house without looking back. This soon-to-be cop sank to the ground immediately and he cried like a toddler. Just then, Flora walked up to him and licked his feet. And for that moment, Kelvin forgot how heartbroken he was. But this pup, who seemed to understand her new owner's pain, wasn't done yet. She started tugging at Kelvin's shoes and wagging her tail. She wanted him to play. It was as if she was telling me to let go of the past and look forward to the future, Kelvin recounted. It was this dog that changed his life in an unimaginable way. A few weeks later, Kelvin finally moved to Mexico with Flora. Before he left, he made a promise to her to be the best version of himself and rise above his limitations. A few months after Kevin started his job, he started training to be Flora's handler. Each day he got better at it, and soon he was deemed fit to continue training Flora so she could work in the police force too. The two worked really hard and Flora was a fast learner. Seeing her learn so fast made me so happy. She was active, playful, and I learned so much from her. I saw how much she was determined to become a canine, and her strength inspired me. And so it was. This duo continued to be there for each other in good and sad times. Although it seemed long, 2 years soon flew past and Flora successfully completed her canine training and was assigned her first task. An elderly woman had gone missing and Flora found her where she had collapsed in the woods. If not for the German Shepherd's swiftness, the woman wouldn't have made it. When she found the woman, I shed tears. I was happy for her. I was very happy, Kelvin said. Years passed and this duo continued to work side by side. Flora even made friends with Kelvin's new neighbor, and soon she and Kelvin started talking and secretly admired each other. Unfortunately, it was a very tragic incident that brought them closer. After 9 years of working on the force, Flora finally retired and Kelvin threw a grand party for her. Unfortunately, a few weeks after this, catastrophe struck. Flora became very sick. She began vomiting. She also had no appetite and even collapsed on different occasions. Kelvin then rushed her to a veterinary, and it was there they diagnosed his best friend with terminal heart cancer. The dog was in so much pain that Kelvin had to make the excruciating decision to put his best friend and workmate down. After years of being each other's anchor, Kelvin couldn't bring himself to believe it was going to end this way. Finally, the unbearable moment came. Here is Flora, lying on this table. Kelvin then wore an arm protector. Even though Flora was in a lot of pain, she tugged at the protector while her human friend patted her head lovingly. They were both determined to give each other one last happy moment before they called it a wrap. Kelvin then said to his dog, "From the first day you licked my feet, you taught me resilience. You taught me to get up and fight, and you didn't just say it. You showed me the way through your strength and patience. I will never find a friend like you elsewhere. I wish I could take all these away. I will never let you go, Flora. Till we meet again, just remain the good girl that you are." He then kissed her on the nose and rubbed her face lightly. Finally, the veterinarian injected the dog, and Kelvin began sobbing uncontrollably while massaging her head and nose tenderly. No words will be able to describe the pain of losing the one who means the world to us. That evening, Flora was buried, and his neighbor was at the burial ceremony. "Don't worry, she is always there with you," then pointed at his heart, and Kevin smiled amidst his pain. He missed Flora, but knew she was now finally at peace. What a beautiful and touching story about a man and his loyal four-legged friend.